Hello.
Hey, Hannes, how's it going?
Good. How about you?
Oh, doing all right. Uh, Getting really excited to see this move forward.
Yeah, absolutely.
I have that overwhelming sense of oh, it seems like everything is kind of okay. What am I missing? So yeah, I actually haven't had any time to check in on how CI signal's been looking
So
this
for a
morning.
little while last night, I want to say, or early this morning, it was actually all green purple.
Wow.
But there is, last time I checked, there was one job failing, but
Okay,
really heavily flaking. So it's not too bad at all. Could be
cool.
better, always better, but
Yeah. Um, I think where I ended up yesterday, I tried to, give the board a good scrub, and one of the problems I had was there seemed to be like four different issues or something related to subpath flakes within.
yeah, I was a
Um,
bit torn with that too because we started with opening one for all the subpath failures, but then went down the route of like actually breaking them down per driver and per graceful or forceful deletion, I think.
yeah.
I don't know if that made things better or worse, but yeah, there's a bit of
Okay.
mismatch there.
Yeah, it just wasn't clear to me which I did. I think agree with Michelle that it made sense to roll those things up. I just didn't know which one to up into, and I also didn't know which cherry pick she was talking about. Otherwise, I would have gone and herded that cat.
Yeah, I've sort of got them kind of rolled up in my head. I mean, we can talk about it. We can definitely, I can open an umbrella thing, and we
Sure.
can have them rolled up in an issue if that helps. But I am also monitoring the pull requests. I think there is one remaining, and then that's it for cherry picks at least.
Uh,
Anyways, more
yeah.
about that in a meeting.
Yeah, I guess I'll go ahead and say the thing. I don't see anybody from issue triage here right now. It's my only thing, but we can get there. Okay, so hi everybody. No, today is Tuesday, March the 19th. This is the Kubernetes 114 Burndown meeting, European time zone friendly edition. Um, I am your host, Aaron of, wait, I'm not called sig-release. I am your host, Aaron of Sigbeard, and you are all not being jerks, and so that's how you're adhering to the Kubernetes code of conduct, which you can go verify by watching yourselves on YouTube later once this recording is posted. Um, so let's run through the meeting notes, which I will paste in the agenda if you want to sign yourselves in. And start with Claire to talk to us about enhancements for 114.
No change in number, still 31. And all 31 still have a cup.
Okay. Um, Maria, what's your status is not quite chartreuse.
I know. I'll go back to yellow. Um, so things are looking better than yesterday and better than the few days before that. We last time I checked, we had no failing jobs in master blocking or 114 blocking. There is one job failing in master upgrade, but it is down to frequent flakes that we know from previously, and I think most of them are being worked on, with the exception of the resource usage test. There are a couple of PRs that we have our eyes on that are going to help us stabilize upgrade dashboards more. And then we're also busy putting together a list of known flakes and their impact as we know them at the moment, just so we are prepared should we need to refer back to them if they fail near release day. Just so we knowing we can make a decision on whether it's a failure that we can sort of get away with in terms of a test, if it's a test setup thing, or if it's something that we should be holding the release for. I've linked the spreadsheet that we're using as scrap paper at the moment, and then I'm going to convert that into a GitHub issue later on for posterity. I think that's mostly my updates. We talked a bit about adding a story for the blog in terms of CI signal and bug triage yesterday. I'm still looking for a little bit of inspiration. I was going down the path of this is what it looked like in terms of issues and PRs and what sort of areas we worked on in terms of coverage and stability. So that's sort of the story that I'm putting together. But if you think that there's something else that would be more interesting for the audience that's going to receive those posts, let me know and I'll change that.
I can't think a ton, so we'll come back to the
Okay.
comms thing in a second, I think. But so I spent a good chunk of time trying to walk through the CI signal board, and I guess I'm trying to ask, like, should we take what's in the spreadsheet and make the board look the same way? It's just my like anti-spreadsheet bias, where it'd be cool if we could point people at the board and say, like, this is the column that describes all of the flakes that we're watching, and then all of those issues describe like what's going on. But I mean, this spreadsheet shows you your scratch notes maybe a little bit more effectively for your purposes.
Yeah, it is intended to be temporary. I feel that the only content that this makes it easier to see that's not just immediately visible from a list of GitHub issues is kind of the first of all, the type of error that is okay to see and is down to just a flaky test setup, and what, if any, is the impact on the release. If we somehow figure out a way to express that within the board, then I'm definitely up for consolidating the two. I also don't like to have additional spreadsheets around.
If you don't mind me diving deep on this just for a second, let's see. Like, all right, sorry for the dark mode. Like, there are a lot of columns here. It's really like a lot to take in at a glance. So I was wondering if perhaps we wanted to merge these two columns here. One's talking about waiting before resolving for just things that have PRs, and one's talking about waiting on flakes. And then we have 4 columns related to stuff that was resolved. I was thinking we could consolidate that down to whatever you need for your CI signal report. Like, I created a column for every issue that it looked like we had resolved this week or over the weekend, to help you for your report there. Do you need all 4 of these resolved columns?
No, I think in the past we've just moved everything prior to this week over to more than 2 weeks old.
Okay.
But also it's not, yeah.
And to your suggestion of like, we want to know like what are our known flakes versus like what are the really bad ones, to me, I would say the known ones like can live in the flakes column. They can have priority, important, whatever. But if they're really bad ones, then we could have the priority, critical, urgent label applied to them. And that way, like, this column of flakes is stuff that like we know about, but like nothing's actually happening. This column shows us that people are actually actively working on them, and these are new things that we haven't recognized yet and need to triage. I'm a little on the fence about the umbrella issue column.
Yeah, I mean, I can talk a little bit about what the intention was with the columns, and then we can also see if this is a good format for us to keep. I kind of have it like as 2 separate things in my head. So we set up the board just so it's easier for us to keep an eye on things as they moved through the release. The list that I was going to build next is just the stuff that we didn't get to resolution with, the stuff that's still open at this point. Do we know about them? Do we know what is okay to see? And do we know what's not okay to see, kind of thing. You're absolutely right that I don't expect, I mean, hopefully we won't see anything big that's not already present in this board as an issue somewhere. The only additional information would be how often does this thing happen? How often does this test flake, for example? And how much of a reason does it give us to worry? Is it something that we know is just flaky and flakes, I don't know, once every 5 times, and we just expect to see a timeout and it's fine? Or is it something that if we see it happening, it's maybe raising questions as to whether it's a stable release? So that's the only information that I haven't still figured out how to capture within this board.
That's totally fair. Like, I think what I've tried to do for issues in the past is just drop a screenshot of whatever triage is doing on a given issue. Yeah, so, and this was one of the ones where Michelle's like, hey, if you actually take a look at your screenshots from triage, you'll notice that most of these new failures are happening on versions of Kubernetes that haven't been cherry picked back. So, but I get it, like it's tough to see at a glance what's happening. It's really, you kind of do have to drill down to each individual issue. Okay, I want to kind of keep us moving along. So thank you for that, Maria. Do we have somebody here? Marco, I think you're here to talk to us about bug triage. Maybe.
Hey, this is Nicholas.
Oh, hey, Nick.
Hey. So we're looking pretty good from the bug triage perspective. We have about like 7 open issues still identified for 114, and it looks like 3 open PRs for 114. We can help triage some of the CI signal, and I'll press on my team a bit to assist with that. But from just a 114 perspective, we're looking pretty good. So I'd say we're about a green.
Okay. Yeah, I've been trying to keep an eye on the trickle of pull requests. Like my main little bit of paranoia here is to make sure like all the pull requests are gone that we think need to be merged in prior to code thaw. So looks like there are 2 outstanding right now. One of them's not super clear to me. I will chase down that. But yeah, looking good.
And I'll press on my team again to focus on that. Try and get that in before thaw.
Okay. Yeah, that's super helpful. The order I've been trying to walk through things is like PRs first, because those are important for thaw. Then any issues that are not kind failing test or kind flake to see if there's any outstanding like bugs or work that remains to be done. And then for failing test and flake, that's all CI signal stuff. So I've been trying to walk through the board. So I never got a color status from you. Are you green or yellow or red?
Green.
Green, super green. Okay, cool. I don't see Amit here to talk about test infra. As far as I know, nothing is on fire. All PRs have successfully merged. Jim, let's talk about docs.
Cool. This will be quick also. We're all looking green. 91% of the PRs are merged in the 114 milestone, so we're on track.
Okay. Do we have anybody here to talk about release notes? I don't see Chiefy or Lindsay or Dave. Okay. I will follow up with them online. Okay, let's talk. Well, before we get talk comms, I want to do Hannes and then come back to comms. So Hannes, what's the story with release branch?
Yeah, all good, all green. The cut is planned for today in the afternoon my time, which will be around about in 3 hours. But as said, I'm happy to move it depending on what we decide here as a go or no-go signal. For example, do we want to wait for those 2 outstanding PRs or not for RC1? Well, yeah, we can check on that now or later in sig-release.
I would like to wait for them, but we can coordinate on that on sig-release. My suggestion would be like before you make a cut, hey, these PRs are still outstanding. What's going on? But I will try to keep a very watchful eye on PRs that are getting added in. There are a number of things that have snuck in, like rightly so, for fixing bugs and stuff. But yeah, thank you for being vocal about that.
I mean, I guess it's in general a go signal. So there is nothing really on fire, but we just wait and see how additional PRs go. Is that correct?
That's what I'm hearing from everybody. I haven't heard any reason to say we're not doing code thaw, we're not proceeding as scheduled. Nobody's given me anything that seems very scary. The toughest part seems to be flakes. Okay, so you kind of got me to my first question. Does anybody have any objections if we proceed with code thaw as scheduled? Speak now or forever thaw your code.
Does that mean that master opens tomorrow morning?
It'll effectively open like either tomorrow morning or end of day today. I'm going to leave this up to the judgment of both Amit as the test infra role, as well as whoever is the on-call person for test infrastructure, just because typically when we flip things around like this, suddenly there's a really large stack of PRs, and we want to make sure that there's a human around in case anything happens to go sideways as a result of that. I will plan on notifying Kubernetes dev of this fact sometime after this meeting, as well as instructions reminding them that what this really means is if they want anything to land in the release afterwards, they're going to have to cherry pick their changes into the branch. Okay, so next let's talk comms. I'm gonna scroll down to yesterday's update and paste the release blog in here. So I have gone ahead and tried to get approval from all of the SIG people that I'm aware of how to get approval from. I will get in contact with somebody from SIG Windows this morning. Then Claire, we need sign off from you on this blog. And I also need to sign off on this particular blog post. To me, it all looks good. As I started to review the state of like what things were going stable versus beta versus alpha, comparing the enhancement tracking issues in the enhancement spreadsheet, I found things were a little bit out of date. So I had to shuffle things around. So the line about the number of enhancements, the number is the same, but they're slightly, I think, less stable and more beta, and somehow the net new number disappeared. I will have to figure that out. Otherwise, looks okay. The thing that I'm confused about is insert themes here from media messaging doc. It's like, okay, so what are the themes? Where do I go find that? So if I copy paste the messaging doc in here, messaging doc is where what I have filled out thus far is like what we have done differently than the last release. And Claire has super helpfully filled in with this release what customers are now able to do and filled in like what's coming up. But I still don't really necessarily know where I'm supposed to put the themes section of this. My thought was I was going to kind of wander through the different user stories from the stable feature KEPs as well as the stuff that people can do now that they couldn't do before, and see if I could just make something up in the next 2 hours or so. Does that sound okay to folks? And who wants to collaborate with me on that as like a second pair of eyes or third pair of eyes or whatever?
I'm happy to help. I've been looking through a lot of this stuff already, so
Okay.
yeah.
So Maria, in terms of stories related to CI signal, I feel like the best place to make those contributions, if you would like to, would be to describe how is this release different from past releases. What are you doing this release that you have not seen CI signal do in past releases, or what's changed, what's different, and give me, like, also, you don't have to, like, it's totally cool if you don't. You're also free to just like write up your own blog post about like the adventures of CI signal on Kubernetes, and it can be its own kubernetes.io blog post, because we always love blog posts on there. So like, no pressure, just if you want to contribute, totally, this would be the place to do it. Give me a ping and I can help sign off on that.
Cool. Yeah, it was mostly to make sure that it wasn't something like completely irrelevant and boring to people. That's all.
Yeah, like I feel like the kind of tricky stories, like, gee, things have really been flaky this release lately. But I also feel like the team has done a tremendously good job of bringing attention to that and getting movement on the appropriate issues. So like, I know we used a project board this time. I don't believe we have used a project board in times past. It's unclear to me whether or not there's enough of a story there. Yeah, I think that's really all I had. So the main thing for me is like, go, no go on comms. I'm not ready to say, Natasha, please click send and tell all your journalist friends to read all of this and treat it as the source of truth with 0 lies in it. Or mistakes, I think, is maybe the better phrase there. So I kind of want at least the next 2 hours to get that right. Does that seem fair to everybody? Okay. So Claire?
I have one more question on comms that I don't know if you'll know, but Natasha mentioned something about like putting different people's names down for like speaking or press meetings. Do we know like what the time frame for those being done should be?
Oh, that's a really good question. Nerds. Let's see. So she's looking for people available to talk tomorrow through Friday. Okay. Well, so I feel like what I can do there is go poke the people whose names are on a release blog and see if they are willing to be said interview people. So I feel confident I can find somebody from storage to talk to things. And then I can probably find somebody from Node to talk to things. But I think, like, Claire, if you have any contacts within the 4 SIGs that are mentioned in the release blog document, let's collaborate on reaching out to those folks and making sure they'd be willing to be interviewees.
Yeah, I can talk to the Windows people. I know Michael.
Okay. Yeah, he has like a couple long ongoing threads with me in Slack as well. For as often as I've been poked, I guess I could actually poke back for once.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I'm happy to be an interviewee. I think, Claire, if you want to be an interview person.
I don't know if I'm allowed to, because I haven't done some sort of like corporate training thing that's required at my company. So
Yes, I'm aware of that training. Yes. I had to go through something similar. It's fun.
Yeah, so I reached out to them yesterday, but I doubt I'll be cleared to do it tomorrow.
Okay.
But I'll keep Natasha posted on that. I mentioned it to her over Slack.
Okay. That's cool. And then maybe thinking a little bit further out, right now, the blog also talks about a panel happening on April 23rd, where people are invited to join members of the 114 release team. So if you don't necessarily get yourself cleared now, perhaps you can get yourself cleared to show up and talk about fun stuff on April 23rd. I have not, I did something in person at KubeCon for 113, and if this is something similar, it was like 4 or 5 people. It was pretty informal. You know, we kind of reviewed the talking points that we are currently putting together on the release blog document and the key messages document, and it was a fun time. Cool. 5 minutes left. Anybody have anything? All right. So my cat t-shirt today is the melting kitty ice cream cone, because, you know, Code Thaw is here and I'm super excited for it. And also, who doesn't love ice cream? So let's go thaw some code, everybody. Happy Tuesday.
See you all. Bye.